Hi, it's 𝘀𝗿𝗲𝗍𝗶. Welcome to the Leggett podcast. Right, hi, Joanna. So today we're going to give people some clues on how to prepare their house for sale. And now it might sound obvious, but it's not obvious to everybody. So, I think that it's also, people often worry about timing. They worry about, seasons and things. And really, I don't think there is a season anymore. It used to be seasonal, our business, where you could say, oh yes, springtime was the time to put your house on the market. Lots of lovely flowers around, sunshine, the rest of it. But quite frankly, we sell as much property in December these days as we do in August. It doesn't really make any difference. But what does make a difference is how you present it, how it looks when somebody walks through that front door. And I'm sure you have seen some horror stories of the way people leave their homes and expect us to sell them. I mean, of course, your estate agent should give you the advice that you need, but sometimes it's a bit delicate, isn't it? Because you don't want to be rude.
Yeah, you don't want to be. It is quite difficult because, particularly if somebody's been living in their house for quite a long time, they don't see things anymore. So you could have paint coming off doors or walls or handprints on walls and things like that you just don't see because you're living in it every day. The other thing I've noticed quite a bit when I was an agent with clients is pets. People don't realise the smell of pets.
They stink.
And you won't smell it yourself. So a lot of people.
Don't worry, I smell it.
Yeah.
My own.
Well, I've got 4 dogs, so I know that.
I've got 4 dogs as well, and they stink.
But it is quite important. If you've got a viewing, you need to get the pets out of the house for a start. That's one of the most important things. I mean, I've had clients in a car once that said they wouldn't go in because they saw a dog bed in the picture, in the photograph. And they said, oh no, we never get rid of the smell of dogs. We don't have dogs. And they didn't want to visit the house purely because of that. So there's all small little things that you have to take into consideration.
Cats are worse, actually.
And things like, I know this sounds ridiculous, but children's plastic toys, things like that should be moved and stacked somewhere because people can't see that.
It is quite difficult if you're living in a home, though, to actually go around every time you get a visit. And if you're getting 2 or 3 visits a week, then you've got to tidy everything up. But I mean, you do need to make sure that the beds are clean, that the towels are picked up, that the bathrooms are clean and whatever. While you're selling your home, it has to be clean. I mean, unless it's a renovation job and then it's sometimes unfurnished and a mess. I mean, I looked at one this morning that has been prepared for sale because it's a restoration job. But I mean, I looked at it with the client and I said, well, look, you've got plaster falling off the walls, you've got holes in the floorboards, you've got a couple of leaks in the roof. I said, you're going to have to fix the leaks in the roof to start with, no matter what, because no one's going to buy a house where it's actually still leaking. I mean, okay, the roof might need a new roof, but, at least stop it leaking.
I think the first thing...
And clear up all the broken rubble and stuff and clear it out. So at least they can project themselves into that space and they can see what they can do with it.
I think that's the thing that people don't realise so much. It's clutter. When you're living in a house like I do with loads of stuff, if I was going to try and sell that, I'd have to pack it all up and put it all in the barn because people don't always have vision and they can't see beyond that, and it makes it complicated. And the first thing you notice when you pull up is the 𝘁𝗶𝗄. So that's what you've got to look at is your front door. I mean, when I was selling properties, I used to have some little props in the car. I used to have a geranium in a pot. Just putting a geranium at the front door.
You drove around with a geranium in the car?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Get off.
Well, just for...
No way.
I did. It was the houses that were empty. It just made them look like
one geranium made all the difference.
Yeah, you put it by the front door, you open the shutters and it makes it look like a welcoming home. But all of those sort of things do make a difference. And we noticed
So what you're suggesting, that all of our agents drive around with a geranium in the car?
Yeah, I used to have ladders, everything in the car.
Ladders?
Yeah, to go up higher and take pictures over hedges.
You had a ladder and a geranium in the car?
Yeah, geraniums always worked. It's just to make the house look more welcoming. And, they say there's the old tricks in the book, like have the coffee on, have some croissants cooking in the oven.
I agree with
lemons and limes and things like that. But I think the most important thing is to clear clutter and make sure the house smells nice. Because if you walk into a house and it's got an awful smell, it will put people off. So those are really important. And your front door, make sure your front door's painted nicely. You know, if that's the first thing they're going to see.
It's fairly obvious stuff, isn't it? But sometimes you say that to somebody and they get quite offended. You know, I remember quite often say, well, you know, could you get rid of all that? And they don't actually think it is. It's a quite delicate thing to say.
And even things like,
I'll give you an example of one house that I did years ago, and it was painted in all these bright colours and everything. And of course, the lady loved it. She thought this is amazing, all my wonderful bright coloured walls. And I said, no one's going to like this. And in those days, I was quite blunt when I was there, probably a bit too blunt.
Probably just as well you're not doing it anymore.
Yeah, it probably is. Yeah. So I walked in there and I said, do you know what? You can do us a favour? Can we just paint the whole house white? Because of it. She said, well, don't you like my decor? I said, no. And I don't think anybody else will. And to be honest, this looks so closed in. You need space. Anyway, painted the whole house white. I organised it for her. I got it done cheaply. So she went and sold it with another agent.
Well,
Yeah.
I think
The other agent came in the minute we finished the decorating and sold the first person who saw it. I was absolutely gutted.
I mean, the other thing, yeah, that is a bit of a shame. I think times have changed. I mean, if you look at the television shows now on how to sell your property or how to decorate your house, there's so many programs that you can get. And there's so many companies that now do home staging,
Well, I should say,
which is big in America.
If you're selling a house for 250,000 and by spending 10,000 euros, all right, okay, if you haven't got it, you haven't got it. But sometimes to spend 5,000 to 10,000 euros on your property to make it just a blank canvas, as blank as possible, so someone can project themselves into that space and see what they want to do with it, in order to get 50,000 euros more, it's a no-brainer. But when you say that to people, they still don't do it and they won't do it. So, but why?
I think it's a little bit. France is a little bit further behind than the UK, and the UK is further behind than the States. In the States, they always do that. Home staging is massive in the States. They get rid of their stuff, they stock it all, and they dress the house for sale, and it sells within weeks. You know, because it's been home staged. It's not so big. It's not so big here in France, but I think people do need to look at their house through their own, you know, through someone else's eyes.
Well, they listen to their estate agent.
Yeah, their estate agent is obviously.
The thing is, the estate agent knows what he's doing and knows what he needs to be able to sell it at a higher price, probably.
And all little things like, you know, if a plug's hanging off a wall, fix it. Because all of those sort of things they'll think is going to be a problem, or if they've left that hanging off the wall, then there's going to be other problems. So anything that needs fixed, get it all done before, you know, broken glass or cracked glass in a window, all of those sort of things, get them fixed before you put the house on the market.
There is a cost attached, but there's things that you can spend money on that's cost effective rather than spend money on things that aren't. And I think, you know, like giving a house a coat of white paint so it's nice and clean and whatever is extremely cost effective. The other thing is driveways. You know, driveways, putting a bit of fresh gravel on the driveway is not the end of the world, and raking it around so it looks nice and tidy. Making sure the grass is cut.
Yeah, I mean, they're
they're silly things. You know, the pool is serviced and it's clean. The terrace, it doesn't take a lot. And again, it beggars belief sometimes when you look, you think, oh my God, if only they tidied that up. I mean, in the old days, of course, that's what I used to do. I used to buy property like that and then do exactly that to it and then put it back and then sell it as a marchand de biens. But I mean, you know, properties have been flying away through COVID in rural areas. The property market's been extremely buoyant, and as it slows down, which it is starting to slow down a little bit, then the bargains are there again. And as people obviously have property on the market for a lot longer, we've seen that we've had... I mean, the reality is everybody's the same, because I speak to other colleagues, and people are still probably over-optimistic with their pricing a lot of the time and are basing their prices on sales. When a house is priced right, it sells at the moment. When it's tidy, there is still a lack of good property coming to market. There really is. But the stuff that was selling during COVID, literally anything sold in the countryside, didn't it? There were houses being sold that I thought would never sell, that I thought, well, you're never going to sell that, no. And they went, and they flew away at sort of prices. I thought, well, Was that, you know, like village houses with no gardens basically were unsaleable before COVID, weren't they? And then during COVID, everybody wanted a little bowl hole in the countryside, and they started being snapped up. Mind you, have you noticed any of them being renovated? They're still sat there. They're exactly the same. And they're coming back to market, a lot of those things. And I think some people are probably going to get their fingers burnt on some of those things if they pay too much for them. Because there was such a lack of property in the countryside after COVID that the people were thinking, well, I'm not going to get something unless I go quick. And now we can see that there's more property coming to market, starting to increase. There's also, I would say, people that have been on the market for a while are starting to realise that, yes, we do need to drop the price a little bit, and they are starting to, and then they're selling. You know, so it's an interesting time. It is an interesting time. And of course, the foreign buyers were competing with French buyers, and French buyers were actually outbidding the foreign buyers for the first time in 30 years of career of doing this. I'd ever seen it. I'd never seen that happen before, ever. And yet there were French buyers coming in and paying stronger money than the foreign buyers were prepared to pay. So, you know, I think we're going to go back to where we started from, mind you, as the people realise that living in the countryside wasn't quite what they expected. And they moved back to cities because a lot of people have tried the experiment of working from home in the countryside and find it really boring going to the same bar and the same restaurant every day of the year.
Well, I think it's this half-an-hour commute thing where the work is. They'll go where the work is. And I think in the countryside, you tend to get a lot of properties that need renovation because it's been parents' or grandparents' houses and they've been inherited by the children. They don't want to live in the countryside because they want to be in a city where they work.
Well, that's always what it was like.
And that's
the only blip in the market was COVID that totally really screwed everything up a bit.
But the good thing now is, even with these properties that need renovating, there's so much software out there that you can do home staging. You know, you can look at a room and you can show a client, or a client can look at what could be done with it, because not everyone has a vision.
Yeah, but don't you hate the furniture they put in on those software properties? It's rubbish, isn't it? That's like you've been to IKEA.
I do go to IKEA. But there is. But it's just like, it does actually help people, because there are some people that just don't have a creative mind to see past what it could be. And so with all the new softwares and things online and websites online now, you can really get a clear picture of what you could actually do to the house.
Yeah, no, IKEA's not that bad anyway. We don't want to get sued by them either, so we better find it's quite nice stuff, actually.
Well, IKEA,
yeah.
And
very nice.
Yeah. And all you need is a geranium in a pot plant.
And a ladder.
And a ladder at the front door. Yeah.
There you go. So I'm going to go out and buy a geranium and a ladder. And see if it makes me a better estate agent. So get all you budding estate agents. If you want to be good at your job, you need to buy yourself a ladder and a geranium.
It's true. Because what you forget is sometimes you've got high hedges and you can't see the property with a hedge. So that's why you need some height. And the geranium, as I said, just makes the property look more welcoming. But all of these are sort of tips. I mean, there's so many tips we could talk about all day on how to dress your house properly. But it is massively important.
Yeah, of course it is.
And, you know...
I think going back to the beginning is that sometimes to invest a bit of money to get quite a lot more for it is a positive cash investment that I fail to see why people wouldn't do it. And also, as you say, when you've lived in a house for a long time, you don't see marks and dents and dents, and it gives you a chance to run around the whole place, you know, fill in the cracks and paint over them, because you get movement in any of these old buildings. We've got a crack over there.
But also, people will see if there's nothing, for them to do, then they see that as more value in the property. Because if they come into a house and it's got paintwork,
I think there's always something to do. I don't think you should actually try and renovate the house. I'm saying you need to do, in order to look, some people, they need to see the space clearly, and when it's painted white, quite simply, is that it gives you a blank canvas. You can imagine a lot easier what you can do with it and the space that you've got to play with. And also, as you say, decluttering is really important, because, you know, a house like yours, for example, you can't see a wall. It's difficult to...
It's my art.
Oh, it's art, I see.
But, you know, the art could come off, but then there'll be holes. But yeah, no, I totally agree. You do have to. I mean, my kitchen, I've got pots and things everywhere because I like seeing it. But for somebody else to walk in, they'll just go, oh my God, this is just too much stuff.
Yeah.
And they can't see the kitchen for the stuff. So, you know, it does need to be cluttered if you're looking at selling. It's not for living in, it's for selling. And that's the difference.
So anyway, yeah, so don't be afraid to spend a few quid in order to get quite a lot more when you come to sell your house. That's my tip.